Hey everyone. Um, the um, the actual lecture recorded live and in person got a little bit compromised, both in terms of it was kind of a wild period and the audio quality wasn't that great. And I also wanted to just hit on some really important aspects of this talk, which relate to um, the availability of work right now and for your future. And I just didn't allow enough time for it. And so I'm going to kind of brush through some things that I emphasize more in the in-person lecture and then get to at least some mention of job opportunities, because I want you to be apprised of some of the stuff that's available given your experience in fisheries and in conservation biology. So just I'll recap some things and expand on others and hopefully do it in a relatively short amount of time, just so these resources that I took the time to find for you are available. So if you didn't get it in the lecture, submit everything that's available to submit by tonight, because after that, all the assignments will be closed. I will post the final exam questions in advance on Canvas. And if you didn't get the memo, your final grade can be used as your midterm grade if you exceed the score you got for the midterm, as a way of incentivizing a better improvement, basically, and to also compensate for errors that I made in writing the midterm. And then December 10th is the actual final. The classroom will be open at 3:30 to 5:30. You can use that. You can take it online as well. You can collaborate. It's open book. You got to do your own work though. Okay. So we had some poems. This is one of the poems that had a nice visual with it. And this is another one, both of which were quite lovely. And I'll ship out the poems so that people can enjoy them on Canvas. And then I addressed, as just kind of a final note, this idea of global environmental change and fish conservation, which we've touched on throughout the course. But I wanted to emphasize that in my mind, there are 6 major drivers of fish biodiversity and just biodiversity declines in general. And they include many that we've discussed: habitat loss, climate change somewhat, invasive species we've discussed considerably, water scarcity. We talked a lot about the California aqueduct system and how that's driven by scarcity and demand. Overfishing in the last few lectures I discussed. And then pollution. We didn't get that much to pollution, but I'm sure you hit it in some of your other classes. These are the main drivers. And I don't have time in these final lectures to sort of rehash or elaborate on these things, although there are many things that could be discussed. But I wanted people to just think about, rather just broadly about it, that we know these things as ecologists. We know that there are these things that are going on that constitute crises that in many ways are preventable. And Aldo Leopold said that one of the penalties of knowing this is that you kind of live alone by yourself with it, especially in his time. There's much more awareness of it today. But he said ultimately you either got to toughen up or you got to do something about it and provide solutions. And hopefully your education will provide that for you. And I just want to remind you, it's in the service of the fishes who can't really do it on their own. 83% in California are either gone or they're on the decline. And this number is also reflected in global fisheries as well, including many marine fisheries. So it's a good planet. We should hang on to it. Better to invest our resources perhaps in maintaining it than trying to terraform Mars. Which is not to say that we won't have to terraform our own planet to some degree to accommodate the massive human population and the changes that we brought on the landscape. But which means we'll make weird compromises. And we already have. The thing is developing novel ecosystems with integrity so that they can support a diversity of ecosystem ecosystem benefits, that benefit humanity as well as the wild world. And so that should be the direction that we're heading in. And we actually as a society and as a science, we have the capacity to do this, and we have a plan, more or less. We have a plan. I'm not sure that my face is in the way of the slide, so I'm going to move it. I can't tell what's being recorded on your end. But there are key things that we, as knowledgeable ecologists and conservationists, can do to push for a better future, not only for ourselves, but for the ecosystem in general. And the key things, and I think you know a lot of these, but I'll just kind of go down my list at least, which are manage climate change, personally manage it, but also locally and globally be invested in many different levels that we have to think about changing our approach to resource use and the climate. Support legislation that for sustainable resource use. Create vast, not just large, but vast natural reserves. Putting away part of the planet to support ecosystem services and biodiversity, like to the tune of at least 10%, is a reasonable thing to do and will pay in the end, although there will be short-term costs associated with it. To manage ecosystems, not just for species, not just according to the Endangered Species Act, but to manage whole ecosystems as an integrated whole, to use the precautionary principle when managing fisheries and populations and ecosystems, which I've talked about in the past week or so, restoring habitats that are damaged or reconciling habitats that are altered so that they function in useful ways, using science, communicating science. These are skills that we have as a sort of elite group. Communicating with all stakeholders, right and left and in between. And this, of course, is the national peril, is that many parts of our population can't hear each other. So figuring out how to communicate to everyone. And then reducing the impact directly on fisheries, reducing pollution, these ongoing things that have been largely solved in the US, but not completely, and certainly not globally. And then really shrinking our resource use, which involves shrinking human populations and reducing the quantity of resources they use, particularly in our own country. And then creating equity. Equity within the socioeconomic classes. So equity, because currently in our country, we have sort of, within the United States, we have an entitled class with access to vastly more resources than the rest of the country. And that is an inefficient way of divvying up our resources. And then creating equity, these same lines exist between our country and the rest of the world, where we have a disproportionately high standard of living that, again, leads to excesses and resentment, and ultimately makes it very difficult to move forward on these other principles, these other plans. Not to mention the fact that it's inhumane to have a small fraction of the human population dominating our resources. So anyway, that's my agenda. How do you make it work? It's more than just changing your diet, although that's part of it. There's, in terms of eating, it's always better to eat lower on the food chain than higher on the food chain, and it's better to eat sustainable sources of seafood than non-sustainable sources. And we have tools to help us do that with Monterey Bay Aquarium's Seafood Watch Guide, which you can get on an app on your phone. So you can actually decide, is this a sustainable fishery? Should I be eating mahi-mahi or should I be eating Dungeness crab? I'd go for the Dungy personally. And in general, watching what we eat is a way to moderate our resource consumption. We eat, in our country, we eat an excessive amount of protein in the form of meat. Without getting at meat altogether, we could probably reduce that footprint and reduce our energy consumption. In the US, according to this plot of, I'm going to move my face again here because I can't tell if it's in the way of the plot. So our energy use in terms of our per capita energy use, which is here scaled by gross domestic product per capita. It's just a way of scaling it. In the United States, our energy consumption is off the hook. So, of course, figuring out what you eat is part of that. Figuring out how you use energy resources, whether you're going to use it in cars, whether you're going to use it for manufacturing, you know, luxury goods and services, or in general, our standard of living in the US is so much higher than that in other parts of the world. And how we're going to make that more equitable and ultimately less impactful and more sustainable is really a big question for the future. So there's lots of ways to do that, ranging from very, very local to sort of the personal thing of like, how do I monitor my own consumption and resource use, to thinking locally and acting locally as well. Or maybe it's acting locally and thinking globally, but really most of us are going to be really engaged. Some of us with silver tongues and lofty ideas are going to engage in the global, these global discussions about how to change the planet for the better. And but many of us are just going to interact on much smaller scales with local ideas and local projects. And there's nothing wrong with that. The idea is that we're all engaged on a level that we're comfortable with. And so, you know, one of the ways to start locally is to change your own habits. And then a step up from that is to engage with the community. And like the Pewter Creek Council is a great way to engage with a wonderful reconciliation project right here in Davis. And they have regular meetings, regular activities, from cleaning up the creek to planting trees. And it's a wonderful way to improve the world on a relatively small scale. Other ways to get involved are right here on campus through the Society for Conservation Biology, the American Fisheries Society. These are really active groups. Excuse me. These are really active groups on campus that do a lot of great local projects, not only to support students in terms of their approach to science, but also but to benefit the community. And it's easy to get involved right now while you're a student. Also, there are various internship opportunities on campus, both paid and unpaid. I'm looking for some people right now to do a Sacramento perch reintroduction project here on campus. And if you're interested in that, you should get in touch with me. And as I go through, I'm going to show you some other job opportunities that are available right now that you could follow up on. Sort of going from the very small puddle here in UC Davis to broader and broader circles. So, by the way, if you're interested in Sac Perch and you want to work on a project, get in touch with me. You know how to find me. On that same note, this is a paid internship working with somebody over in animal sciences, Ann Holmes, who does eDNA, which is a really wonderful cutting edge project with important environmental implications. And you can see this information and how to get in touch with her on this page here, which will be on Canvas, just as a PDF. If you're interested in continuing scholarship, there are lots of other ways to engage in a more intensive fashion. The Doris Duke Conservation Scholars Program up at UW has summer programs, which are designed to get people interacting with each other. This is an undergraduate program, I believe, and you go up there for 8 weeks and immerse yourself, and it comes with a stipend. And it's a way of getting you involved in environmental issues and environmental justice. And it's something that's available to you if you apply for these programs. This one's, the deadline's in February. And so I would encourage you to check out these cool opportunities. The Switzer Foundation is another one like that. It's specifically targeting graduate students. And there have been a number of, so here at the top of the list are a couple of folks from the UCs. A number of UC Davis students have been Switzer Fellows, including many friends of mine, actually. And this is a wonderful way to network and get opportunities in conservation, and to sort of further your scholarship and have a bigger impact and create a network of like-minded thinkers to sort of expand your message. And so I highly recommend applying for a Switzer. If you're graduating, though, in the near term, you're probably thinking about where you're going to hit and what you're going to do when you get out of here. And there's kind of a lot of different tiers to think about here. I'm going to give you some I'm going to show you some specific opportunities about how to think about that. there's a whole range of things from the sort of long-term position or from short-term positions rather to long-term. And my guess is most of you are going to want to get out of here and get some money in your pocket and get some experience. And there's a variety of ways to do that. You know, if you want to make a difference and just do good and do it for a summer, it's easy to join you know, like a summer program in one of the state wildlife organizations and do so. And there are more longer term opportunities available in consulting and for the feds, for the tribes. Academia, if you're working as an internship when you graduate, if you're well placed, you might be able to find yourself into a junior specialist position, which is a 1 to 3 year position here at the university supporting research. There's also Peace Corps and AmeriCorps, which often do fisheries projects and environmental restoration projects. Pardon me. The angling sector, there's aquaculture, power companies hire, water agencies hire. I have aquaculture again for no particular reason. I have angling sector again for no particular reason. But also, if you're looking to make a sort of big social impact, journalism and law are things to consider in your future studies, because both, you know, so journalism is really a matter of, you know, a really kind of important niche is emerging of science journalism. People who can actually speak the language of science and translate it to the public effectively is a really important position that is only going to increase as we become more specialized in our research and need to communicate more of this to a public that is clearly floundering in terms of understanding science. So science journalism is a way to make a big splash. And then, of course, the law. People who specialize in environmental law and have a background in environmental studies and biology, and then an understanding of the law, actually have a lot of power, particularly in the nonprofit world. There's a lot of opportunities for talented people. The fact is that there's probably more opportunity for people with experience in environmental law than there are in other aspects of the law, just because oftentimes people go and get a law degree and they want to go make the big bucks after getting their degree. However, you can make a big impact by incorporating law and communication with your science background. Let me give you some examples of stuff. So right now, the state at the Delta Stewardship Council is looking to hire a senior environmental scientist. And you may look, oh, well, I'm not senior. But if you go and look at the requirements for these jobs, you know, just by virtue of the fact that you have a bachelor's degree and have a little bit of experience, you might qualify for this, or you might find out that as you're digging into this, that you're not necessarily, you know, that there's another job that's also being offered that's more with your skill set. But this is not, it says senior environmental scientist, but you're not a manager, and you'll be supervised by others. So this is an opportunity to work for a really great organization. The Delta Stewardship Council is very much dedicated to science and managing the Delta in a coherent way. And they're actually offering a lot of money for this job. So this is something that you could inquire. And if you can go to Cal Careers and you can do searches on these jobs, and you can find other jobs, not just for Delta Stewardship Council, but also for Cal Fish and Wildlife, for Department of Water Resources, all of which are offering a lot of jobs, particularly in the spring. There will be an emergence of seasonal jobs, not just at California, although they're already up. Environmental, there's a position. These are at the Department of Fish and Wildlife. There's a positions for environmental scientists. These are a couple of different ones, both at DFW. The California Conservation Corps is offering positions for fish habitat assistants, which could be a really fun job out in the sticks. Alaska in the summertime will be hiring a whole bunch of fish and wildlife technicians, do everything from monitoring the ground fisheries to counting salmon as they come back up rivers to get an estimate of the adult spawner abundance. And as you know now, that's a really important metric to get when trying to establish the condition of a population, in which we have a lot of control over in salmon runs, because they come back to their natal streams and we can evaluate the size of the population. And then again, measure the production that comes from it and get some sense of the health of the population, the productivity of the population. Alaska's going to hire a lot of people to do that, and that's quite a fun experience. State of Washington also is going to do that. There's lots of positions up there. Idaho and Oregon and California as well. So the Western states are full of jobs in the summer that are really cool ways to like make a difference, get some experience, and put some money in your pocket. There's also federal jobs. I've talked a little bit about these for fisheries jobs. NOAA, they're harder to get. Usually they require a little more experience, but they're out there. If you go to NOAA Fisheries or you go to USA Jobs, these jobs are out there, and it's a really good time to be looking right now. The tribes are a really interesting experience to work for. So up in Alaska, in particular, the tribal corporations offer a lot of opportunities for managing resources. And again, a quick Google search will take you, these are 2 positions that are apparently available right now that I found for fisheries biologists. One's in Palmer and one is in Bethel, Alaska. And this is not only a fisheries experience, but it's a really interesting cultural experience as well. You'll be way out in the sticks working with people from a different culture and learning a lot and possibly giving a lot as well. So I think that this is a fun opportunity. Peace Corps, AmeriCorps, UN volunteers all offer opportunities to go out and do environmental work and environmental justice work, which are worth following up on. And I should say that, like working for the tribes, working in state jobs, working for Peace Corps, these are not jobs that are going to pay a lot, but they offer really wild opportunities to get outside your comfort zone and do something like really unexpected with your sort of extraordinary skill set. I mean, most people just don't know as much about biology and fisheries and the environment as you do. So you're remarkable coming out of the program that you're coming out of. Also jobs directly in fisheries. This is a fisheries, this is a fisheries deckhand position. So an actual fisherman's position. And up in Alaska that I found advertised on Facebook. I don't know, I don't know what kind of risk you're putting yourself out there going out with somebody you don't know, but it is one way to find jobs without having to go up there. A job in the fishery is a really cool way to experience the world from a different perspective and meet people who may not, who may have something in common with you, but have a very different background. I know that I found it really exciting when I worked in fisheries, and it might be the same for you. Also observer jobs. I've talked a bit about observer jobs, both in class and with you individually. And there are a lot of jobs. And this is one of the companies, basically the government subcontracts out, the federal government subcontracts out to private agencies. And saltwater is one of them. I think they operate off the California coast. And there's different levels of observers. There's onboard observers, and there's also shore-based observers, so that you're counting fish as they come up on the shore. And those jobs are available kind of depending on your comfort zone. Some of the jobs go out for long periods of time, for weeks at a time, and some just go out for the day. And I think, I don't either want to glamorize them or make it seem too harsh. All these jobs, any job on the water is going to be a really tough job, and you're going to find challenges. If you're a people-oriented person and you're flexible and you communicate well and you got a strong back, then these might be exciting jobs for you. And they probably pay you a whole bunch of money in a very short period of time. Although working on a fishing boat, you're not going to make very much money. You'll have fun, maybe. You'll have an experience. These are all experientially oriented jobs. This is Andrew Ripple's fish job matrix, in which he kind of broke down the detriments and benefits of working for different kinds of agencies or different kinds of positions. And you can kind of break this down yourself. I mean, the gist of it, 0 is neutral, a plus is good, and a minus is bad. For the state, the pay is okay, but it offers really good benefits. And you get to live in, get to live in good places. Quality of life is kind of neutral. He rates the feds a little bit higher. Certainly the money's a little bit better on the federal side. And I don't know if the quality of life is truly better. You might be constrained where you actually go to live. These are kind of tend to be higher level jobs. And so you tend to need a little bit more of a background, a little bit higher degree perhaps, and maybe get some more, you'll have some more authority for some bigger decisions in some ways. Nonprofits, of course, or NGOs, non-governmental organizations, those jobs are really, those are the fun jobs where you can really go through and go and work in small communities or in smaller projects, or depending on the scale, larger stuff as well, but they tend to pay pretty badly. And the trade-off is that you get to go work in really cool places and you have an extraordinary quality of life because you're doing something that's extraordinary that there's just not enough money to pay high-end stuff for. And so, a lot of nonprofit opportunities, whether it's working for the Peace Corps, whether it's working for local nonprofits, give you extraordinary experiences at the cost of pay. And frankly, it's a great thing to do while you don't have a lot of responsibilities and you want to garner experience. It's a way of getting paid to have a different kind of education. Working for the tribes is kind of like nonprofits, again, kind of a grand experience for low pay. Environmental consulting can pay, but it may not be very gratifying. There are some environmental consulting companies like Kramer Fish Sciences that are really great, and some are just kind of and you might end up doing things you don't really like. And so it's just really, really varied. Power companies are always going to be paying for environmental mitigation. Same thing with the Department of Water Resources. They hire a lot of people to manage water and also manage the biology of the stuff that's in the water. And those are actually pretty good jobs. They pay pretty well. They're desk jobs for sure. Although there's, DWR does a lot of scientific research as well. So there's lots of people going out in the field, but there's a lot of bureaucracy to deal with as well. So one has to be well equipped socially and emotionally to be able to handle the high level of bureaucracy, which I don't think that I personally am that well equipped. And so I got stuck in academia. And it's interesting on this matrix, Andrew gives every single one of these a plus. And I think the guy must really like his job. They don't get a lot of pluses, but everything gets a kind of plus. And it's true, the pay is okay. Benefits are good. The location, it depends on if you graduate and with your PhD and have to go live in Kansas or Oklahoma, and if you like that, on your way up the professor ladder. But the quality of life tends to be great. You get to work with good people. You get to have wild and interesting experiences. I went into academia as a grad student. I kept going because a professor came up to me and said, "Hey, you gonna go to grad school?" I was like, "I don't know. I might just get back to work." And he said, "You know what? Grad school is so great. You may not get a great job when you get out, but oh man, the people you meet are fantastic." And I would say that's true. The destination is the journey. It's a really fun ride. And when you get out, you have the resources to be able to make something up, whether you're going to be employing yourself or starting an environmental consulting company or working for the feds or working in academia. A lot of opportunities open up. My job is a little different than Andrew's in some ways. I don't know if Andrew would agree, but my job's better than Andrew because I have more flexibility in my time. I teach classes when I want to. I don't have to teach a lot. But the downside is I have to raise my own money. So essentially, I work for the university after I pay them through grants to hire me. And so it's a great life, but it's a little bit risky too. It doesn't have the benefits of tenure. Anyway, enough said about that. The point is, somewhere out there, there's a job in the field if you want it. And for the first time, maybe things are starting to shift. We've said that before, but I think things are really shifting for the better now. So more jobs are available to a bigger diversity of people, and a broader socioeconomic slice as well. If you're willing to sacrifice the quest for money with the quest for knowledge and doing good in the world, then there's a place for you. And I also want to say that after you get your degree, the burdens of the student loan system often constrain people so they can't really take the job they want. They end up going and being a coder and working for a software company and developing apps for somebody's phone when they really, they sort of lose their idealism just because of the financial constraints of, starting a family, having kids, and then being saddled with student loans. So let me just put this out here because this is not as widely known as it should be. There's a federal public service loan forgiveness program. So this is really important information, so that it means that if you graduate and you get a less than stellar paying job, that you can scale the monthly payments to your income on an income-based repayment plan, IBRP. And if you make 120 payments, that's 10 years of payments, the rest of your loan will be dismissed. So if you're paying a few $100s a month, that's $3,600, and that's a year times 10, $36,000. If you have $50,000 in loan, the rest gets dismissed. If you have $100,000 in loan, the rest gets dismissed. And so this is I think I did the math there wrong, but you get the point. It's hard to do math on my feet, especially when I'm talking into a camera, but you get the point. This is a really great tool for people who don't want to sacrifice their idealism to do what they want to do and still be able to manage to pay back their student loans in a reasonable fashion without going into default. But mostly, these are the things I have to offer. But mostly, I guess when everything is said and done, what I hope I gave you a little bit in this class, and what I hope you can see from these various job opportunities, is that it's good to take some risks. It's reasonable to graduate and get out and follow your bliss. And if you loved being out here on the bay and in the creek with us, and if you've enjoyed some of the stuff that you've done in class and you want to keep doing it, I really encourage you to find a way to pursue that and not get socked in too soon to the burdens of establishment life. So, don't listen to your parents. Don't listen to your professors. Don't listen to the call of money, even though the cost of living and the risks of living in a highly competitive society are intimidating. I really encourage you to take some risks and go outside your comfort zone and do something extraordinary. And if you have enough passion for it and you're dedicated enough with it, then I think good things, I think you'll manage one way or another. You just have to kind of remain in dogged pursuit of your dream. And that's something I believe in. Anyway, that's my spiel. Thanks, everyone. I had a really wonderful time teaching this class, and I hope you enjoyed it as well. I look forward to seeing you around campus. I also just want to put out there that I don't teach that often, and so you have become my special pool of students. And if any of you need any kind of support, academic or bureaucratic or emotional or otherwise, please feel free to reach out to me. I'll do what I can to help you navigate the system and get you successfully graduated from UC Davis. But please use me as a resource. You're my pool of students right now, unlike other professors who do this every year. So yeah, take advantage of that and stay in touch. It's been a real pleasure teaching this class and working with you throughout the quarter. Take care.